Hello, I'm Candy Duncan. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters for the Lewisburg area. I'd like to welcome you to the candidates panel for the November 2021 election. Tonight's panel will feature candidates for East Buffalo Township Supervisor, Union Township Supervisor, and Lewisburg Borough Council Ward 4. We begin all of our events and our meetings with the reading of our nonpartisan statement. So we will begin this event the same way. The League of Women Voters of the Lewisburg area is nonpartisan, meaning it neither endorses nor opposes a political party or candidate for political office. The choice made in 1920 by the National League to neither support nor oppose any political party or candidate for public office continues today to ensure that the League's voice is heard above the tumult of party politics. Nonpartisanship towards candidates and political parties is critical to the effectiveness of the League's unique voter service and citizen information work. In keeping with the League's goal of voter education and civil discourse, we provide forums to encourage thoughtful consideration of important and timely topics. The League values the differing viewpoints held by all attendees at these events. We request your cooperation in providing an atmosphere for listening and respectful discussion. We ask you abide by and respect this nonpartisan policy in your words and actions. Now I'd like to introduce our moderator for the evening, Janice Bigelow. She is a longtime member of the League of Women Voters. She is a past president of this league, and she is a seasoned moderator. Janice?
Hello. We will begin this session with introductory comments that will include the guidelines for the event. The League encourages informed and active participation in government. This event is part of our ongoing voter education effort to help voters make informed decisions in elections. We sponsor these nonpartisan candidates events to help voters become better informed about the candidates running for contested positions. One of the goals of this event is to create an atmosphere that is a comfortable forum for the candidate to answer questions from the voters. This is an opportunity for the candidates to focus on the ideas and the issues that distinguish them from the other candidates on the panel. We believe that the hallmark of democracy is the willingness of our community to treat each other with courtesy and respect. It is in that spirit that we are here today to engage in a vital part of our democratic process. This is where candidates have an opportunity to answer questions about the important issues that confront our communities while acting in a civil manner. At today's events, the panelists will be asked questions that were received from people who submitted questions to our League's email address, as well as questions prepared by League members. This event is being recorded without an audience and will then be posted on YouTube in its unedited form. League questions were screened using the following criteria. They are relevant to the current issues and to the office being considered, and they are carefully phrased to prevent bias and partisanship. Questions submitted by email for this event were screened using the following criteria. They are relevant to all candidates for the office in question. They are comprehensive. They are not inflammatory or a gratuitous attack on any other candidate, and to avoid duplicate questions being asked. All candidates will have 2 minutes for their opening and closing statements, 1 minute to answer questions, and 30 seconds to give a rebuttal response if they choose to do that. I will read each question to the candidates, and those questions will appear simultaneously in the chat box for review. Candidates, please have your chat open. The timer today is my husband, Fred Bigelow. For the opening and closing statements, the candidates will have 2 minutes. When there are 30 seconds remaining, a yellow card will be held up. When the time is up, a red card will be held up. Candidates should finish their sentence and stop. For the answer to questions, you have 1 minute. A yellow sign will be held up when there are 15 seconds remaining. When time is up, a red stop card will be held up. Please stop. After each question, all candidates will be asked if they choose to do a rebuttal or follow-up. If they say yes, the candidate will be given 30 seconds. A yellow card indicating 15 seconds are left to speak will be held up. When the red card is held up, candidates should finish the sentence and stop. We ask that all candidates honor these time constraints. Our panel today will consist of the candidates for the following 3 offices. East Buffalo Township Supervisor, there is 1 position open. The 2 candidates running for this position are here today. For Union Township Supervisor, there is 1 position open, and one of the 2 candidates is in attendance today. For the Lewisburg Borough Council Ward 4, there is 1 position open, and both of the candidates running for this position are here today. For the viewers' information, there are 8 Lewisburg Borough Council members, with half elected every 2 years. Members meet once monthly and are responsible for enacting, revising, repealing, and amending ordinances and resolutions that govern and are beneficial to the borough, but are not inconsistent with the laws of the Commonwealth. The term for this office is 4 years. There are 3 supervisors for each of Union County's local townships, 1 being elected every 2 years. The supervisors are the legislative body of the township in setting policy, enacting and enforcing ordinances and resolutions, adopting budgets, and levying taxes. The term is for 6 years. We are now ready to begin our opening statements. You have two minutes to give your opening statement. A sign will be held up when there are 30 seconds remaining. We will start first with the candidates for East Buffalo Township Supervisor, Ms. Evans.
Hello, my name's Katie Evans, and I am running for supervisor in East Buffalo Township. And first, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for providing this, what will be easily accessible review of all the candidates that are up for election that have agreed to come and be interviewed. And so I thank you for that. I've lived in East Buffalo Township for almost 30 years. And it's the longest I've ever lived anywhere in my entire life. And so I look at why I've lived here so long and why I want to run for township supervisor. First of all, it's one of the most beautiful, agreeable places that I've ever lived. And I'm running for township supervisor because I believe, first of all, that local government is the real heart of the community. It's the one place where you have direct access to the people who make the ordinances or levy your taxes, or the people to whom you bring problems. If you're having a problem with water runoff on your road, those are the people that you come to who can address it directly. So I think that I can certainly be equal to the task, and I really would like to serve the citizens of East Buffalo Township.
Mr. Glazer.
I appreciate you putting this together this afternoon or this evening. My name is Mike Glazer. I'm running for East Buffalo Township Supervisor, and I'd like to give you my reasons why I'm running. I believe that, first of all, that a township, that running for township supervisor should have nothing to do with political parties. I know that Katie and I come with Ds and Rs next to our names. But on a township level, I believe the most important thing is that Ds and Rs don't mean a thing, that it doesn't matter with brush collection, it doesn't matter with road paving, it doesn't matter to make sure emergency services operate properly. I've lived here for 20 years. Before that, my wife Kara and I lived in the borough. And I found that this area is really special. And let me tell you why I think this area is really special. Before I retired in 2019, I worked for 2 US congressmen, first for John Peterson until he retired, and then for Glenn Thompson. My job was to be eyes, ears, and sometimes their voice, representing 16 rural Pennsylvania counties. My job was to work with township officials and county officials to solve problems. I did that for 20 years. I really feel that having this job would just mean me changing the side of the table. I know where to get things done. I know who to talk to get things done, and I know how to get things done. I really appreciate you having me here tonight, and I'm looking forward to the questions.
We'll next hear from the candidate for Union Township Supervisor, Mr. Greak.
Hello, I'm Dan Greak, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this together and giving us all a chance to get our message out there and answer these questions. I've lived in the township here since 2007. 2004, I bought the Old Baptist Church here, and I had my Taekwondo school established since 1990, but moved it over here so that I have my own instead of renting. I've been in self-employed construction, home improvements, and remodeling since 1985. And so I have a lot of experience with working with people and solving problems and living here in the village and in this township. I see chances for some improvements for our quality of life. In the past, there have been a lot of changes made by businesses, and we certainly want to have businesses here, but they make changes and they don't live here and have to deal with the consequences of those. So I was asked by many people if I would consider running for supervisor, and I agreed to do that. And I will make the improvements, or try to make the improvements with everybody and talk with everybody, so there's an open dialogue. I would like to also, if possible, do something about what I call the climate change, which is not just our climate change with the earth, but our climate change needs, the way we talk to each other needs to change. Not this partisan stuff. We're all in this together as a community, so there's things here that need to be done to help us to maybe keep out unwanted businesses with zoning. And we have a water runoff problem in many areas around our township. We have speed and noise and traffic problems, and they need to be addressed as well. Thank you.
And now we will hear from the candidates for Lewisburg Borough Council, Ward 4, Ms. Lira.
Hello, everyone, and thank you to Linda and Janice and Candy and the rest of the League of Women Voters of the Lewisburg area for organizing this event. My name is Marlene Lira, and I am committed to serving as a Borough Council member for the 4th Ward of Lewisburg. My professional background is in public health. I'm a researcher, and I study how to reduce the harms from substance use. As a parent to 2 in the charming and family-friendly borough of Lewisburg, I'm running for council because I want to give back to the community that has already given so much to my young family. I am an efficient and collaborative problem solver with a unique public health orientation. I've been involved in multiple public health efforts in the Lewisburg area, including giving guidance to borough council members who reached out at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, working with the State Department of Health to bring a COVID-19 vaccine truck to last week's Lewisburg Fall Festival, and working with the Snyder Union Opioid Coalition on a community intervention that we hope to implement in 2022 around opioid use disorder. I can bring these same skills to Borough Council. My top priorities are those that have downstream effects on public health, such as improving road and pedestrian safety and mitigating flooding. These are particular issues for my ward, where many have also expressed feeling forgotten. I'm able to navigate data and research and can bridge the gap between quickly evolving research and the challenges of real life application. In my service to the community, I've been told that people appreciate my warmth, my commitment, and my ability to get things done. I am dedicated to being a voice for my entire ward and to creating new possibilities for all of us in Lewisburg. Thank you.
Mr. Mummey.
Rudy Mummey, and I'm a candidate for Lewisburg Borough Council from Ward 4. I ran for the open seat in Ward 4 in November 2018 election and only lost by 6 votes. So I know I have support from many Ward 4 residents, especially from those residents who reside west of Route 15. With the exception of a brief 4-year stint living in Milton, I have lived in Lewisburg area for the better part of 56 years, 20 in the borough. So I believe I know this community and area pretty well. I'm running again for Ward 4 Borough Council seat because I believe there are some shared concerns I hear from friends and neighbors in Ward 4 that need to be addressed. I believe we need to recognize that there is no room for politics in Borough Council. Members are elected to represent all citizens of the borough. We need a representative from Ward 4 who lives on the west side of Route 15, the forgotten part of the ward. Residents west of Route 15 deserve the same recognition as those who live in the other 3 wards, as well as the in-town part of the ward. We are tired of being residents of the borough out towards Mifflinburg. Street lighting on the west side of Route 15 needs to be expanded. Except in St. Mary Street Park, we don't even have 3 grown street lights. We need to look at our street projects. Some Ward 4 streets west of Route 15 is in dire of repair or resurfacing. I point out Matlack Avenue as one example. We need to stop wasting taxpayer money on lawsuits like the recent one with the East Buffalo Township concerning the Buffalo Valley Regional Police Department. Let's put the money to better use in our community. And I certainly think we do not need to be worrying about projects such as the North 4th Street Revitalization Project at an estimated cost of $1 million. We just don't have it. Thank you very much.
We're now ready to begin the questions, and a reminder that you have 1 minute to answer them. The first 4 questions that I will be asking are for the full panel, and questions 1 and 2 are league questions. If elected, what would you do during your first 100 days of office? The candidate for Union Township Supervisor, Mr. Greak.
First, I would reach out to the residents that live here and ask them what the important things to them are. And I know a lot of it is the water runoff that we have that's collected on our roads, both state roads and township roads, and that washes onto their land, and that needs to be fixed and made right. I want to also talk to them about zoning, and with the zoning, I'm not talking about changing anything. That's a big worry for everybody, but I don't want to change the zoning. I don't want zoning to be difficult. I want it just to keep us protected from unwanted businesses being here. Thank you.
Mr. Greak, do you choose to use an additional 30 seconds?
Sure, I could use that. There's another problem that we have here, and the residents all talked to me about it already, and that's the speed and noise and the stop signs that aren't followed here in town. So I'd like to see if we can come up with a solution to remedy that by having some enforcement here within our whole township, with 304 and Route 15 and Park Road being a major hub for everybody to travel through, and they just fly through here, coming off Route 15 at 55 miles an hour in a 25-mile-an-hour zone.
We will now hear the answers from the candidates for Lewisburg Borough Council, Ward 4. We will begin with Mr. Mummey.
Well, I have lots of projects in mind. I don't know whether I can complete them all, or and certainly not in 100 days, but some of the things I've already mentioned. I definitely think we need a representative from out here, as I said, from the part of the borough out toward Mifflinburg. And, you know, we're part of the borough too. And I sometimes feel that we're totally forgotten out here. I'd like to make sure that the borough council, the rest of the council members know that we're out here. And even the ones who are in town, I will be glad to represent, because as I said, I'll represent all residents of Ward 4. Thank you.
Ms. Lira.
Yes, thank you for that question. Within the first 100 days in office, I think I would try to tackle 3 different projects and try to get them started. The first has to do with pedestrian safety. I'd like to take the Market Street study and try to reach out with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation to try to get the process started to make our downtown safer. As a mom frequently crossing Market Street with a stroller, I frequently have issues crossing safely. And I think there are multiple ways to address this, whether it's through light up crosswalks or slow signs or enhanced police enforcement. But I think that we can make the downtown area a lot more pedestrian friendly. In addition, I know there's already a lot of work going on to repair the roads. So I would try to understand what Mr. Lothert is doing with the engineer. I know they're doing inspections. They've got a list of streets that they're going to repair, make sure that's equitable and being done in a financially responsible way. And I'd also try to make Zoom meetings for public meetings for council so people can join again, not just in pandemic times. Thank you.
Mr. Mummey, would you care to do a rebuttal?
I'd like to comment on Marlene's statement about the pedestrian problem in the town. And even though we're out here in Ward 4, all of Lewisburg is important. So downtown is just as important as the outer parts of the ward.
Ms. Lira, would you like to do a rebuttal?
Yes, and I just like to agree with Mr. Mummey. I think he's absolutely right. The area to the west of 15 deserves pedestrian safe zones and sidewalks, and I'm in complete agreement.
Okay, and now we will hear from the East Buffalo candidates for East Buffalo Township Supervisor. We will begin with Mr. Glazer.
I do in my first 100 days is build a wall right up Route 15 to divide East Buffalo with Lewisburg and have Lewisburg pay for it. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I've already started trying to delve into this job before I might even be elected. I've spoken to Chief Blunt of the fire department. I've also spoken with Chief Yost of the police department. I have some ideas, especially about the fire department. We need some new equipment. We need new safety equipment. As I said, some trucks in the building. The firehouse needs some repair. I'd like to delve into that pretty quickly.
Ms. Evans.
I would first of all like to see the park on Fairground Road completed. The work seems to be going very slowly, and it's something that will certainly benefit.
Oh, she froze.
There, okay.
Oh.
Okay, on my first 100 days, I would like to see the park on Fairground Road that's been being worked on for quite a while be completed. And along with that, I'd also like to look at grants for additional parks. It seems that A lot of people, because of COVID, have been out and about, and I think we need some places for them to gather very comfortably in their own neighborhoods. But my major concern is that we've increased a great deal in population, and so I would like to really start working on a plan to deal with possible growth.
Mr. Glazer, would you want to do a rebuttal?
Plans
Please.
to, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay. You
Oh,
unmuted
okay, I'm right.
yourself. Thank
Okay.
you.
The Fairground Road Park, like Katie has discussed, has to be done. There are plans already in effect. Some money has been put aside for that. There's some design work going on, and the ball field there. We've already planned for new dugouts. And that park is just wonderful. The duck pond is something that it should be cherished by East Buffalo. And I think we got to move very quickly and get that done.
Ms. Evans, would you care to do a rebuttal?
Of what Mike just said, no, I think we pretty much agree that the park is a treasure and it needs to move forward.
Okay. Question 2. Robust media coverage of local governments does not always happen, making it sometimes difficult for citizens to learn what their local governments are doing. What can you do to increase communication between elected officials and citizens? We will begin this round of answers with the candidates for Lewisburg Borough Council, Ward 4, Ms. Lira.
That's a great question because, yes, I'm unmuted. That's a great question because it touches on just where I left off. During the first wave of COVID, I guess the first year of COVID, there was an Emergency Act, Act 15, which allowed Lewisburg Council meetings to be Zoom meetings. And I think that that really increased participation and civic engagement in the community. Unfortunately, that lapsed, and now individuals need to go in person again. So I think trying to work to make meetings available. I think there's also a cable channel. I'm not sure if it's being utilized, but I think that we can do a lot to try to get further engagement from the community and also enhance our communication on social media channels. Thank you.
Mr. Mummey.
To every single member of the ward. And the results of that questionnaire would be considered at board meeting, and I'm afraid that never happened. So the Zoom, even though it's not the best, my favorite way of communicating with the residents of the Ward 4, it certainly is one way. I was very pleased to go to a board meeting last week, and we actually sat there with our masks on and talked to each other. And I think that's the basic thing we need to do in order to communicate what the board is doing.
Ms. Lira, would you like to do a rebuttal?
Sure. I think I would just like to comment that I do definitely see the value of in-person meetings, but I also think that COVID has fundamentally changed the way in which we interact with one another, and people are not using their time in the same way and wanting to interact through virtual streams when possible. And I think we have the technology and the know-how to make it happen. So I don't think we should hold back if we can do it. Thank you.
Mr. Mummey, would you like to do a rebuttal?
No, I'm fine. That she said exactly what I would have said.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the candidates for East Buffalo Township Supervisor. We will begin with Ms. Evans.
Make sure that I'm unmuted. Okay. one of the things that I was really happy to see is that at a recent meeting, East Buffalo Township voted to continue using Zoom as part of the supervisors' meetings. And I think also with the planning commission meetings. And so I think that's a great step forward in that attendance at the meetings has increased greatly when Zoom is able to be used. And the more people who can attend, I think the better. And then in addition to that, I think it might be a good idea to actually do what you folks are doing tonight, and that is preserve the meeting via video and post it on the website for the township so that everybody can see exactly what went on, even if they didn't have time to get there.
Mr. Glazer.
This has been, am I there? You hear me? Oh, there I am.
Yes.
Okay. This has always been a problem. The truth is, going to any of the meetings, I used to cover the meetings at the Borough Council when I wrote for the local newspaper, and now I'm attending meetings at East Buffalo. The response to these meetings is insignificant. The problem isn't getting the word out. It's a problem with the population being interested. There should be many venues to get information out. We live in a modern age. A video would be great. I think what Katie said about people being able to go into a video to watch a meeting. But there are other things. Maybe we can get together a regional podcast of news. The communication could only be done if people are interested in hearing it.
Ms. Evans, would you care to give a rebuttal?
Frankly, I like the idea of a regional podcast, but of course, again, you have the problem of who may or may not want to be interested in seeing it. But I think any venue that we can use to connect with the public and inform the public really needs to be explored. And we're increasingly going to have even better technology to do it.
Mr. Glazer, would you like to give a rebuttal?
No, I really think Katie hit it on the head there. We agree on many things, but getting the public involved is something that's always bothered me. In my career, whatever it was, going to meetings, I was always very unhappy with the turnout of people interested in what is happening down the block. But you can't hold up because of that. You got to put it out. You got to make it as easy as possible for people to take advantage of the information.
And now the candidate for Union Township Supervisor, Mr. Greak.
I would like to see all of the meetings done on Zoom at least. And that way the residents here there's transparency of the meeting, and then they can be informed of what the issues are. In addition to that, I think that monthly things that are coming up on the agenda should be sent to everybody, available to be sent to everybody via email, the residents as a group email, that they know what's coming up and they can tune in via the Zoom, or they can, when it's able, to come in person. But I think there's many people that just can't make it physically and sit there for 2 hours. They can be in the comfort of their home and still be informed. So we have to make it available for everybody. And that's the best route for me. And I like the transparency because everything's out in front for everybody to see. Thank you.
Mr. Greak, would you like to use an additional 30 seconds?
No, I'm good. That's fine.
All right. Okay, we'll move on to questions 3 and 4, and those are community questions. So question 3 is this: how can pedestrian safety be improved in your community? And we will begin with the candidates for East Buffalo Township Supervisor. The first one is Mr. Glazer.
Well, We have a very rural type of community. Sure, we have Route 45 going through the center of East Buffalo. But as far as the kids, there were no sidewalks. We don't have sidewalks in East Buffalo. And because of that, people do use the streets. People walk their dogs, they jog, they roller skate, they use skateboards. It is part of the community. How do we make it safer? That's something that's going to have to be studied. I don't have a panacea for that. I also feel that if you look at history of the area, it's pretty safe. So I don't know what to suggest right now. I honestly have to say that. I'd love to look into it, but I don't want to make any constraints also on the way they can enjoy themselves.
Ms. Evans.
Okay, like Mike, I don't have the panacea either. And I do agree that it is a problem. I mean, not just pedestrians, but also for bicyclists. And our roads are narrow. And as Mike pointed out, we don't have sidewalks. I think there's been some discussion about lowering speed limits on certain roads. But even that, even enforced, the roads are still narrow, and there just isn't simply room to put in a bike lane or a pedestrian lane. And there might be some objection from the populace about putting in sidewalks, because I think that generally the homeowner is the one who has to foot the cost for the sidewalk. But maybe we could look at some grants or things that would help provide financing for that.
Mr. Glazer, would you like to do a rebuttal?
Not a rebuttal so much. It's something that I just reminded. I've been going out and trying to knock on doors and meet people. And just last weekend, I was on Stein Lane, and there is no place that you could pull a car over on Stein Lane. There's the golf course on one side. There are houses on the other side. I know that a few years ago, the Township and Bucknell had discussed possibly putting a narrow path on the golf course where people could jog, ride a bicycle. Maybe we should revisit that, at least in that one area, because Stein Lane is dangerous.
Ms. Evans, would you like to give a rebuttal or follow up to?
No, I think Mike and I are on the same page.
Okay. We'll now hear from the candidate for Union Township Supervisor, Mr. Greak.
Our roads here, most of our township is rural anyway, so there's really just the main thing that we have to do is speed control and enforce speed control here throughout the whole township, because people just fly through here and they come off of the main 11 and 15 and they hit 304 in Park Road, and they're not changing their speed. So I know in the village it's really dangerous here, and if anybody's on 304 and Park Road, they're not real wide roads anyway. So if there's a presence of law enforcement or some type of speed control that could be done, that would make things a lot safer. And there's an Amish community here as well. So it's the speed really, and people have to pay attention when they're driving and stop at stop signs. Here in the village, I'm being conservative, but 9 out of 10 people don't stop.
Mr. Greak, would you like to use an additional 30 seconds for follow-up?
No, I'm good.
All right. We will now hear from the candidates for Lewisburg Borough Council Ward 4, and we will begin with Mr. Mummey.
The other day when I was driving up 3rd Street, we've done a lot to help the handicapped at the intersections. We've cut the sidewalks. But the person in the wheelchair, just did not have enough time to cross the street. And I've also noticed that the blind, that's not handicap accessible to them either, because, they cannot see the light. We might think of putting in a beeper system on our intersections of our streets. Out here west of 15, I think the only sidewalk we have is around the St. Mary Street Park. I think that's the only sidewalk. But there again, I don't think the residents would be amenable to having sidewalks put in because of the exorbitant cost. But some of our streets are wide enough that you can walk up them.
Ms. Lira.
Yes, thank you for that question. Pedestrian safety is really important to me. On a personal note, not in Lewisburg, but I actually lost a family member to a pedestrian accident several years ago. And since then, as I've become a mother, it's only become more and more important to me. And since I've lived in Lewisburg, I actually know 2 people who have been hit by cars downtown. So I'm really committed to trying to improve this problem. I think it's complicated because the roads are PennDOT roads. And so whatever we do will require real collaboration with the state. I think we can pursue a variety of options. I think we could put signs for bicycles to watch out for them. We could try putting out signs by the preschools and daycares. We can try to, as Mr. Mummey said, put more accessible solutions in, and also light up crosswalks would be a great idea. I think we should kind of put all the options out there, including sidewalks, and see which ones we can make work.
Mr. Mummey, would you care to do a rebuttal?
Yeah, out here in the western part of the borough, of the Ward 4 borough, we really don't have crosswalks. I noticed that as I walk around the Ward 4, there are just very few crosswalks anywhere. So I think maybe they need to be considered and eventually put in.
Ms. Lira, would you like to do a rebuttal?
No, thank you. I think it sounds like a lot of us are on the same page about this. Thanks.
All right, then we'll move on to question 4. What are your thoughts about working to increase diversity in your community? And we begin with the candidate for Union Township Supervisor, Mr. Greak.
Well, what we need to do is bring back things like the Winfield Carnival here, so that we get together as a community and talk with each other. There's some developments, smaller developments, they could have little community meetings there or get-togethers, but the fire company down here has a nice property down here, and I'd like to see a lot more events done down there so that we can bring people together and they can communicate. And that's, I spoke of that earlier, it's just we're not communicating with each other, and we become so polarized that we just have to come together and talk. So we need to see if we can get the Winfield Carnival back. I think we need to see if we can have other events down there, music events or things like that. A community build, they need a new stage. Have people from the community come down and help put that together. Those playgrounds, those wooden playgrounds, Kids Grove and all that stuff, really bring communities together.
Mr. Greak, would you like to use the 30-second follow-up?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Good. Okay. All right. Next, we'll hear from the candidates for Lewisburg Borough Council Ward 4. And Ms. Lira, you're first.
Thank you. So my thoughts about working to increase diversity in Lewisburg Borough. I think the first thing that I'd really like to do is try to advance the Human Relations Ordinance. I know that was originally motivated to protect the LGBTQ community, but I think just having that as an ordinance to protect all marginalized populations would be a beacon of what Lewisburg Borough stands for, and would just express to the greater community that we are welcoming. I know that since it was originally proposed, the language has changed somewhat. I think the council has been working really hard on it, getting legal opinion and tweaking things. So I would want to make sure that I give thoughtful and careful review to it to make sure that it's in a good form. But I think that would really be a great first step to help all of our marginalized communities feel welcome in Lewisburg.
Mr. Mummey.
Yes, having taught high school for 39 years, when I first started to teach, every single face in my classroom was white. And then when I retired, there was a very big diversity of students in my class. And I think it started back in the 70s when I had all of the Vietnamese refugees, their children in class. That was wonderful. So I really think that we're doing, based on just watching my classroom become more diversified, I think the borough has become that, and I don't think there's been any problems, any kind of, you know, well, I'm sure there are always problems, but I think we've done a good job in this area and in Lewisburg to help become more diversified.
Ms. Lira, would you like to do a rebuttal?
Yes, I think it's great that over the years, diversity has increased in this area, but I just think that we can do so much more. My kids are mixed. They have Mexican heritage from my husband, and I think they're going to experience issues here. Just seeing them and being their mother, I want to create the most welcoming environment possible so that my children and all families can thrive. So I think you're definitely right, but I think we can do more.
Mr. Mummey?
Yeah, I agree we can do more, but you know, the inherent ethnicity, if I said that right, in this area is still, I guess, our Pennsylvania Dutch, our German heritage, and I see a lot of those people, those who just do not want to see more diversity in our community. Well, I do, and I will certainly fight for that.
All right. Now the candidates for East Buffalo Township Supervisor, Ms. Evans.
Okay, first of all, I guess I'm not really aware of any problems that have surfaced in East Buffalo Township about diversity. But I have seen over the last, I would say 10 years, that we've got a good range of diversification in terms of our population. And I think that we just need to continue to be welcoming. I've found neighbors generally are very welcoming. And I don't know that, for example, like Lewisburg passing an ordinance is necessarily the way to go. But I do think that if problems do surface, we certainly need to take some kind of action to be the welcoming community that I've always seen.
Mr. Glazer.
Oh, as a kid growing up in the Bronx with friends of all different shapes, colors, and religions, moving here, being a Jewish guy from the Bronx and moving here, I think things have changed here a lot. I couldn't get a bagel back in 1991. Now I can. The change in this is organic. The ethnic change of an area is organic. There is nothing we have to do to mechanically change that. If there are problems, we should punch them in the nose immediately. But I've been accepted. My friends, most of my friends are not Jewish. I'm just one of the kids. I'm just one of the gang. I don't see that there's a major problem in the area. And if a problem does arise, we really got to step on it hard.
Ms. Evans, would you like to do a rebuttal?
No, except that I certainly agree with Mike that if problems arise, they need to be dealt with right away.
Mr. Glazer? A rebuttal?
No, I'm just glad there are bagels in Lewisburg now.
All right. Let's move to questions 5 and 6. Those questions are community questions and therefore East Buffalo and Union Township candidates. Okay, question 5 is this. Given that the population is increasing in your area, how can you balance the need for growth with the desire to preserve farmland and the rural nature of your community? Would you support strengthening the existing zoning for agricultural preservation lands as suggested by the Union County Conservation District planners? And we will begin with the candidates for East Buffalo Township Supervisor, Mr. Glazer first.
Agricultural land is very important. The essence of our community in East Buffalo, of course, had been agriculture. It's changed, and we have to keep a balance now. I completely agree with maintaining whatever farmland we have now. The problem can only arise if more people want to move into the area and there's no housing. There's no housing, but that doesn't seem to be a problem right now. Things are always move in a circle. I think that we should maintain the percentages we now have of residential and agricultural, and I think it's the healthiest thing for our area.
Ms. Evans.
I actually agree with virtually everything that Mr. Glazer has said. Part of what makes East Buffalo Township, I think, so attractive is the fact that we have such a thriving agricultural community. And I think that only adds to the general appeal that people find when they look at relocating to East Buffalo Township. Zoning is something that is, I think, extremely important. And as I think I mentioned earlier, I do think we need to sit down and really look seriously about, number one, the potential for growth, where it should happen, and how it should happen. And I think we just need to be prepared for the fact that this is an attractive community and people will probably want to move here.
Mr. Glazer, would you like to do a rebuttal or follow-up?
No, I'm very close to Katie's idea of what the future should look like.
Ms. Evans.
Yes.
Would you like to do a rebuttal or
No, no. I think Mike is correct that we are pretty much in agreement.
All right. We'll move then to the candidate for Union Township Supervisor, Mr. Greak.
Well, here in Union Township, we have no zoning, so we're completely vulnerable to anything coming in here. As it is right now, someone can open a bar up right next door to anybody else. They can do anything with the land, and it's happened. There's storage buildings that have been put into a flood zone over here, which impacts the village, displacing 1 million gallons of water. So we need to have zoning here to protect us from unwanted businesses and unwanted things. So we have some regulations, and I want to keep the freedom that everybody has here already with no zoning, as far as they can burn their paper or they can build their shed. But we don't need landfills, we don't need bars, we don't need strip clubs, and we don't need adult bookstores. I don't want Union Township to turn into Selinsgrove down to Dolphin. It's horrific. Thank you.
Mr. Greak, would you like to use an additional 30 seconds for follow-up?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Okay, we'll now go to question 6. Understanding that zoning laws can be written with input from the people of a township, would you be open to educating the community to the process, and how would you go about doing that? We'll hear from the candidate for Union Township Supervisor, Mr. Greak.
Yes, everybody needs to have a voice in what we do here as a community. So everybody needs to be educated, and we need to get the word out to everybody as to what they want here. We need to have our agricultural lands preserved. We don't want people building right on top of each other. We want to make sure that all the waters and everything that involved in building and growth is managed in a correct way. And it has to be engineered. And we're doing some kind of things like this. Storage buildings over here weren't engineered at first, and then they reverse engineered it. So people have to be informed, and they have to be educated, and they have to have a voice. Everybody has to have a voice in this township, what they want. Thank you.
And Mr. Greek, would you like to use 30 seconds for a follow-up?
No, thank you.
We will now hear from the candidates for East Buffalo Township Supervisor, Ms. Evans.
Okay, as a lifelong educator, I'm in favor of anything that can help people be more informed about their local zoning or the other various ordinances that might exist. And unfortunately, people never think about zoning until something comes up that's going to affect them directly. And then you more or less have to do a crash course on what the ordinance is and why it exists and what it says. And so I think that the more people know before there's a problem with zoning, the better equipped they're going to be in order to deal with how they may want to react if they think that there's something that they want to do that might be kind of iffy where zoning is concerned.
Mr. Glazer.
Well, unfortunately, and this goes back to an earlier question about communication, about people attending meetings. Unfortunately, education only comes out, as far as zoning goes, education only comes out of a panic mode. When something is occurring in somebody's neighborhood that is going to drastically change the area, then people all of a sudden become educated. This is just the way it is. I have no answer for that. This is we as human beings living where we live. This is how it works. Communication, but you have to have the buy-in by the public. And the only other thing is you have to have leaders who would be very serious about this and also fair.
Ms. Evans, would you like to give a rebuttal?
Yes, I think I just would like to emphasize one of the words that Mike used, and that is fair. Because I think when you're looking at zoning or you're looking at objections to zoning, you have to look at it from an impartial view, and you have to do what essentially would follow the ordinance, or if there's going to be a change, what's going to be agreeable to the people who will be affected.
Mr. Glazer, would you like to do a rebuttal?
No, I think we both got our points across.
All right, then we'll move to question 7. And this is a community question, and it is for the Lewisburg Borough Ward 4 candidates. Do you support or oppose the proposed Lewisburg Human Rights Ordinance? Why or why not? We'll hear from the candidates from Lewisburg Borough Ward 4. First up is Mr. Mummey.
At one point when I was running for this office before, I sat down and spent one whole evening looking through that ordinance, trying to figure out, exactly what it says, what the purpose of it is, and so on. And I'm not sure I ever came to a decision, but I do know that a lot of what's in that ordinance is already protected by Commonwealth and federal laws. So I'm still not really sure.
Ms. Lira.
Thank you. I think I do support the proposed Lewisburg Human Rights Ordinance. I say I think because, as I mentioned earlier, I do know that it has changed a lot, and I would need to read the most recent version of it. But I think that it sends a powerful message to say that we are an inclusive, welcoming community. And it also extends protections for the LGBTQ community. I wish that the state would amend its law to include the LGBTQ community as well for non-discrimination. But I think that it would be great as long as I'm understanding it correctly. And I could, fully understand the most recent version of it. Thank you.
Mr. Mummey, would you care to give a rebuttal?
Yeah, I guess I've been a little amiss from not looking at this ordinance. I do know it has been changed, some things added, some things taken away. So I should go back and spend some more time looking and see how it has been changed somewhat. Basically, yes, I'm in favor of it. And like I said, I also think the state and federal laws will also cover a great deal of that ordinance.
Ms. Lira, would you like to give a rebuttal?
No, thank you. I think I made my point.
All right. Well, we've now finished the questions and we're ready to move to the closing statements. We will begin with the candidates for East Buffalo Township, and we will begin with Mr. Glazer.
Well, thank you. Again, thank you for putting this together tonight. Thank you to the league. I'm running because I feel like I'm ready for the job. I spent 20 years working for 2 congressmen, as I've said, working very closely with townships and communities throughout 16 counties of Pennsylvania. I also, my background here in the Valley, I wrote for the Lewisburg Daily Journal. I wrote for the Sun Gazette up in Williamsport. I was their business writer. I wrote speeches for Lieutenant Governor Mark Schweiker. And also, I'm on the Buffalo Valley Recreation Authority Board. I am on the Donald Heater Center Board. I'm very involved in the community. I just think that I'm ready for this job. And just to touch base with something else, which is very important, is that this is the most important thing. Everybody, please get ready. I am the founder of the Lewisburg Woolly Worm Society and the Woolly Worm prognostication. And here I even brought my little woolly worm here. And don't worry, no pupa were harmed during the taping of this video. But I thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking time to watch this. I am ready to do the job. I am ready to do the job for all of us.
Ms. Evans.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Okay. I'm also ready to do the job for all the people of East Buffalo Township. I have a very, very, very varied background in having been a teacher for a number of years and then worked for the State Education Association. And I think that my experience with the State Education Association was the most profitable in preparing me for this job. I understand law, I understand policy, and I understand how to go about dealing with all sorts of problems, whether they be labor issues, whether they be neighbor issues, because I know how to listen. And I also look very, very hard to try to be as fair and as understanding as I possibly can be. In addition, I actually continue to teach, and I deal with adults, and I deal with a lot of people who are leaders. And I hope that they have learned as much from me about being leaders as I have learned from them in terms of how to deal with issues, how to be someone who operates in a fair manner, and somebody who listens and has a sincere desire to make things work. And I thank you very much for holding this event, and good night.
Okay, we will now hear from the candidates for Lewisburg Borough Ward 4. And we will begin with Ms. Lira.
I'd like to again thank the League of Women Voters of the Lewisburg area for coordinating this excellent candidates panel. And I'd also like to thank those who are watching this for taking the time to learn about me as well as everybody else speaking today. My public health background makes me uniquely qualified to contribute to the Lewisburg Borough Council. I'm a problem solver, and I'm interested in being a collaborator with the other council members to make the best solutions for our community. The best solutions for road safety, pedestrian safety, flooding, and inclusivity. I am qualified, I am kind, and I am committed to representing my entire ward and to creating new possibilities for all of us in Lewisburg. Please vote for me by mail or in person on November 2nd. Thank you so much.
Mr. Mummey.
I also wish to thank the League of Women Voters who made this Zoom meeting possible and making me comfortable doing it. In my opening statement and during tonight's proceedings, I have talked about some of the issues I believe need to be addressed by Borough Council. There are other issues such as noise levels on our streets, tax increases, the flooding problem, downtown parking, and putting BVRA on a stable financial path. Regardless of your political views, whether you are a Republican, Democrat, Independent, or of any other political affiliation, I will represent all residents of Ward 4. Lord willing, I will serve my full term on council. If you see a red Jeep cruising around your neighborhood, that would be me. I plan to do that at least once and hopefully more times a month. I want to know what's going on in our ward. And if you're out and about around your home and see me drive by, flag me down and let me know what's on your mind. I'm here in the borough to stay, and I don't expect to move away from my home on Fairground Road anytime soon. Thank you very much.
And we will hear now from the candidate for Union Township Supervisor, Mr. Greak.
Thank you for putting this together, League of Women Voters, and thank you everyone on the panel here for your civility with each other and your heart to do this and to serve. Myself, I've been, like I said, self-employed since 1985, and what I bring to the job of supervisor, if I'm elected, would be working with people and hearing what they want and what they need and what everyone needs, what's best for all of us. So sometimes there's disagreements, and you're always guided by the truth, though. You have to go with the truth. So there's laws that we have to follow. There's things that have to be done in a truthful and open way. And if we all do that, we'll come out the end happier for that. So in our community here, I'm looking for keep things as they are or better, make it better for the future. I don't want businesses to come in here and change things. I don't want a landfill here. We have a big open quarry out there. And I know everyone's afraid of zoning, but townships that don't have zoning eventually have landfills. So we really have to consider that, and we all need to have a voice in that together. Thank you.
Okay, well, to the candidates, we want to say thank you for participating in this event. The League and the voters of Union County appreciate your willingness to present yourselves to them. To those who are watching this event, the League believes that it is not only important to vote, but that it is important to be an informed voter. By watching this event, you are showing that you plan to be an informed voter. Now it is up to all of us, the voters of Union County, to vote in the November 2nd election. If voting in person, the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. If you enjoyed this event and have an interest in joining our league, please contact through our Facebook page, League of Women Voters, Lewisburg Area, or on our website, LWV-Lewisburg, lewisburgarea.org. Thank you.